Okay, let's unpack this. We are doing a deep dive into one of the most interesting conflicts in gaming culture right now.
Yeah.
The collision between a completely modern player and the unyielding design of WoW Classic.
It's more than just a game review, really. It's almost like an anthropological study.
Right.
We're looking at what happens when a player who's used to, all the quality of life features and the instant reward loops of a 2025 game is just dropped into a 2004 world.
Dropped in solo and completely blind. The sources we have, they detail this whole journey. And it's just a fascinating roadmap of cultural friction.
It really is.
So our mission today is to analyze that friction. We're going to follow this reviewer from their very first steps, where they immediately tried to get around the game's core mechanics.
Using modern transactional solutions.
Exactly. All the way to why they just threw up their hands and called it, and this is a quote, one of the most wasted potential game of all time.
And we need to understand why they could see the potential, but the actual experience felt so painful.
Well, the initial struggle, it just sets the stage perfectly.
It really does. So this player, they pick a dwarf hunter, not because they get the class mechanics, but because their goal was just delightfully simple. They wanted to be a sniper.
A sniper?
Which right away shows this modern, tactical expectation instead of just embracing a vague RPG fantasy.
A sniper whose main combat move is right-clicking a boar and then dying.
Over and over again.
Yeah, the source describes this total confusion in the starting zone. Done Morrow. It took them, and this detail is perfect, 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Just to figure out that their main combat skill, Raptor Strike, was on the one key.
I mean, that half hour isn't just lost time, it's a complete failure of user experience from a modern perspective. In a new game, your first ability is a giant glowing tutorial prompt.
Of course.
In Classic, the game just assumes you'll read the manual or talk to someone. And the modern player, they just see that as the game being broken.
And that failure to communicate, it immediately led to this frustration with the leveling pace. They found killing mobs agonizingly slow.
Questioning why a quicker solution wasn't just built into the game.
They did give it a small pass, saying, I guess it's a 20-year-old game. But that modern impatience was already there. It was already dictating what came next.
Because the game design just didn't respect their time, which is like the cardinal sin of 2025 gaming.
So what's the first thing they do?
Their brain immediately pivots to the modern solution, information and transaction. The reviewer thought, and I'm quoting here, this is 2025, where difficulties comes simpler solutions.
That one sentence is basically the thesis of this whole dive. It's not about beating the challenge inside the game's rules.
No, it's about using real-world money and resources to solve an in-game problem.
So what was this simpler solution they found on YouTube?
Dungeon boosting.
Of course.
The ultimate metagame bypass. You pay a max-level character to just kill everything for you while you soak up the experience. And they didn't just think about it, they went straight to G2G.
A huge real money trading site for anyone who doesn't know.
And immediately purchased $30 worth of gold.
But wait a minute, if they're buying gold to bypass the entire game economy before they even hit level 10, haven't they already failed to play the game?
That's the core tension, isn't it?
Is their critique even valid at that point?
Well, they approached it transactionally, but the game still forced them to engage a little. They hit their second huge wall. You can't even start boosting until you're level 10.
So they had to go back to the one thing they hated.
Back to the agonizingly slow mob grind.
And that took them 6 hours. 6 hours of just killing mobs to get to level 10.
6 hours of what they saw as dead time just to unlock the ability to pay someone else to play for them. It shows this huge disconnect in what they value.
Well, if it takes 6 hours of frustration just to unlock the shortcut, you're going to feel pretty hostile toward the design.
Oh, absolutely. They describe the idea of getting to 60 that way, the manual way, as just ridiculous.
And before they could even get that first boost, they had this moment of just pure shock at the size of the world.
The scale of it, yeah.
They had to walk from their starting zone, Dunmow, all the way to Westfall. It took them 35 minutes.
35 minutes.
They call that walk absurd.
Which, again, is the classic design. The world is meant to feel large and a little dangerous. It forces you to plan, maybe even socialize.
For a modern player, a 35-minute walk with nothing happening feels like an oversight.
Like wasted time.
But then the boost finally kicked in. And this is a really crucial turning point. They paid their gold, and suddenly their whole view did a complete 180.
They were hooked.
Hooked on progression, even though they weren't really participating.
It was just pure, uninterrupted vertical progression. Power leveling, through content they barely even saw. They listed them off. Dead Mines, Stockades, Scarlet Monastery. Right. They weren't really playing, they were just experiencing the reward loop of leveling up, completely separated from any effort.
But the dungeons themselves still made an impression. They said Marauder was their favorite, that dungeon was sick.
So the content itself, the actual art and design, was compelling.
But the way they engaged with it was purely transactional, just speed.
And that speed came with a very steep hidden cost. A cost in knowledge, which led directly to the walls they hit at max level.
They basically short-circuited the learning curve.
Completely.
So let's talk about that crash. They hit level 60, and the first huge issue for them was the lack of scaling.
For a modern RPG player, that is just devastating. It breaks the entire feedback loop.
All right.
In a modern game, your Raptor Strike at level 60 should do, 10 times the damage it did at level 1. But they noticed their main attack did barely more damage.
And that's because Classic is all about horizontal progression. Your level just unlocks talents and skill ranks. The real power comes from gear.
From drops, enchants, consumables, to a player who expects that smooth vertical scaling, this just looks like a bug. They hit max level, but they feel weak.
The confusion went even deeper than that, right? Into the class itself.
Yeah, they read the Hunter class description, which obviously mentions pets. It's the defining feature of the class.
And yet, at level 60, they still didn't have one.
Not a single one. And this just highlights how obtuse Classic's design can be. The quest to get your pet is kind of hidden. The game doesn't point you to it.
So a modern player who's just following the UI, they completely miss this fundamental part of their own character.
And their reaction to not having a pet is so telling. They didn't think, oh, I must have missed a quest.
No.
They thought it was something you buy. They actually went back to G2G to see if they could purchase a pet.
Wow.
And were just confused that there was no one selling them. The transactional mindset had completely taken over.
And the gear system just made it all worse. They hit 60, they're in terrible gear, so they go to WoW to look up loot tables.
The standard modern resource.
But they decided the loot tables were incorrect.
And the reason why is so important. They claim they never got a single drop during any of their thousands of boosts.
And there's the core conflict, right, between the classic loot design and the modern boosting meta.
Exactly. In a lot of boosting setups, the boosted character isn't even eligible for loot. They were getting XP, but that was it. Zero character enrichment.
It was a false progression.
Total false. The level counter went up, but the character sheet stayed stagnant. This is what led them to call it the grindiest game ever.
And they had that one specific soul-crushing example.
The Blackstone Ring.
From Maraudon, the dungeon they loved. They estimated they ran over 150 boosts of that one dungeon without ever seeing that one item.
I mean, a 150 run failure rate for one piece of loot, that would break anyone's patience.
It turns the game from a challenge into like a broken slot machine. And they spent over 72 hours, 3 full days of playtime just to hit 60.
And they define that 72-hour grind as a tutorial that basically teaches you nothing.
A disgrace to gaming, they called it.
They argued that maybe that was okay in 2004 when people had more time, but for 2025, that's a massive time investment for a character that feels completely powerless.
And that feeling of isolation was made worse by the world itself. Because they only spent time in that initial grind or inside a dungeon boost, the open world just felt empty to them.
Right, they wondered if the map was just that big. They never made the social connections that the endgame requires.
And that lack of social prep is where the whole thing just shatters.
Completely falls apart.
They hit 60, they look up what to do next, and they decide the raids look fun. They head to Onyxia's lair.
The ideal of the raid was very quickly replaced by the reality of social gatekeeping.
They stood outside the entrance for hours just asking for an invite.
For hours.
Finally get one, but then they can't even enter the portal. They just assumed it was another glitch.
Not realizing they probably missed a whole attunement questline. Another one of Classic's hurdles that just punishes you if you don't know it's there.
So they take a break, they come back, they try a different raid, and the struggle starts all over again. It took, another 2 hours to get an invite?
And the second they got in, it just turned toxic.
Immediate harassment about their gear.
Yeah, and the irony wasn't lost on them. They said, how the hell am I supposed to get better gear if I can't get into any raids?
That's the classic gatekeeping paradox.
Yeah.
The only way to meet the standards is to already meet the standards.
So the player, trying to contribute, just focuses on the one thing they know how to do.
Raptor Strike.
They said they were hitting it almost perfectly timed every time the cooldown was done, thinking they were playing perfectly.
And yet, 15 minutes in, they're getting screamed at on Discord.
And then kicked for literally doing 0 DPS. That is the painful final lesson of the shortcut.
We have to unpack that 0 DPS kick because it's the perfect summary of why boosting failed them. They're hitting their one button perfectly. Why 0 damage?
Because high-level hunter damage is a complex rotation. It's abilities, talents, gear, consumables, none of which they ever learned or acquired.
Raptor Strike on its own is nothing.
It's negligible. The boosting process created a level 60 avatar, but it was functionally a level 10 character in disguise. It just couldn't meet the metric demands of the endgame.
They didn't even know what DPS meant. Damage per second.
Right, the core metric the community uses to judge your worth. And when they tried to explain they were new, the group just got even more pissed off.
It shows they weren't just new to WoW W, they were new to the entire ecosystem of MMO optimization that Classic demands. The game doesn't teach you about DPS meters, but the players require them.
And that's the whole experience in a nutshell. The game promised this grand adventure, but it ended up excluding them based on metrics they couldn't possibly have known.
So that brings us to the final verdict. They saw this incredible potential, but just hated the reality.
They said the game could be so good, the world, the fantasy, it's all solid. But the tedious grinding for minimal reward and player base ruined the game.
The lack of scaling, the gear confusion, the hostile social gatekeeping, they were just insurmountable barriers.
The final ratings were really telling.
Yeah, a 5.5 out of 10 for the experience they actually had. But, and this is the key, they said it had 9.5 out of 10 potential.
And that potential for them is only reachable if Blizzard makes a World of Warcraft 2.
With modern graphics and a complete overhaul of every mechanic in the game.
They want the atmosphere, basically, but without any of the old friction. They want a streamlined, guided 2025 game built inside the 2004 world.
What we saw was just a textbook clash. A modern player expected clear guidance, guaranteed power scaling, and quick entry into content. They tried to force a 2004 sandbox to obey those rules using 2025 tools.
And the game just violently rejected them.
So that brings us to the final thought for you to chew on. When a game like WoW Classic is said to have wasted potential, is that really a failure of the 20-year-old mechanics themselves?
Or is that critique just a stark measurement of how profoundly player expectations have shifted? You know, expectations about effort versus reward, about accessibility, and really about the entire social contract of gaming over the last 2 decades.